Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So a little bit of a different setup here. I'm at my friend's house dog sitting for her. Creed is over there in the corner. He's like staring at me on the couch, but I thought I need to like maximize on time, so I'm trying to get stuff done, and I really wanted to create this video for you guys. So yeah, so I uploaded a video about how and why I moved to New York City, and I got one person who asked me, how did I find jobs as a creative? He said that he was a photographer. I'm pulling up the comment now. Okay, so he said he was a photographer, and this was the question: would love to hear about how you find work, whether that's brand ambassador work or modeling or something else, photography or creative related. It would be great to learn more about how you have navigated those spaces for me as a photographer. I did reply back to him and tell him, like, look, I'm not a photographer. I can give you my viewpoints on that. I asked him a question back. It's only been a day, so I'm not really giving him a lot of time to reply back to me, but I did want to go ahead and shoot the video with what I do have now. So background, a little bit about myself. I am a content creator. I create content. I've been blogging on and off for 5 years now. I wouldn't call myself a model. While I have done modeling gigs, I don't want to label myself as a model yet. Personally, I think that there's areas that I can improve upon before I feel like I'm like a model. I would say I'm more like an Instagram model, more like boutique stuff. I'm not like runway fashion model. I actually don't have a desire to be a runway model, but fashion model is something that I would like to dip my foot into. And when I think of fashion modeling, I think of like being on like the magazines and stuff like that. I'm not a photographer, which is what I told him, but I do think that being a content creator, you do obviously network and meet other creatives and people, and I give my viewpoints on how like I've gotten work and stuff like that. Brand ambassador, just to really go over that term really quickly. Brand ambassador, I like to think of it, it's almost like you are an influencer, except you're not. I got into brand ambassador work in college. A girl that I went to school with introduced it to me, and basically you represent different brands. I did a lot of liquor promos, and just like other like random companies I work for. Like I did a lot of like insurance companies, drink promos, that kind of stuff. Basically, if it was a liquor promo, I was usually at a bar, a liquor store, a club. Usually it was one of those three things, and I was just promoting the drink. And then if it was like an insurance company or something around those lines, because I was in a college town, I did it like at a lot of college events, and I was just promoting the item that way. So that's what I did for those events. And brand ambassador work, if you go on Facebook and Google, I mean not Google, but if you go on Facebook and search brand ambassadors in whatever city you're in, usually there's like a ton of Facebook pages, and you can just add yourself to the Facebook page, or you may have to go through a process. Basically, I was in Gainesville at the time. That's where I went to school, and I was in the brand ambassadors of Gainesville Facebook page. People will post gigs, and you'll slowly like learn the industry. You'll learn people who are like the top of the top brand ambassadors, and people who sometimes like pop in and there. I liked brand ambassador work because it gave me flexibility. So while I still had the 9 to 5, I still was able to pick up gigs like here and there. Sometimes I would use like my sick or PTO and pick up gigs as brand ambassador work, because at the time I was making more money doing it. That's another thing with brand ambassador work. You can make a lot of money in a short amount of time. Usually I wouldn't like leave a gig. If I worked like 4 hours, I was making like 100 in those 4, sometimes even more. Usually it's like 25 an hour. I haven't been in the brand ambassador roles for a bit, so I don't know what the rates are like now. It could probably be way higher than that. I do still get contacted by some agencies to do work, but as of right now, I'm not really taking on gigs. I really just want to focus on like my full-time job and just content creating, and brand ambassador work sometimes does take a lot of energy out of you, but I do still love and miss it. If you do good at brand ambassador work, a lot of brands or a lot of agencies will remember you. I remember my second gig, I was already put as a team lead, and the person was like, well, you just had great communication and you've been like super responsive, so we'll love to mark you as a team lead. And ever since then, me and that company, we've had like great partnerships. I was able to do brand ambassador work like when I went to Miami. I asked them to transfer me here to New York City, and that was how I first got work when I got to New York City. Literally, I did a gig for them for a cell phone company, and I was a lead for pretty much, I think, the first few days when I first moved to New York City. The pay is great as a brand ambassador. Each company is different, so some companies will pay you like weekly, or some companies will pay you every 2 weeks. Some companies, however, they may say like it's 30 or 60 days, which is the worst, especially if you are so used to I was so used to like a tight time frame, like a quick turnaround, that the companies are like 30 or 60. I'm like, dang, like this is good money, but it's gonna take forever for me to get the money. Usually I would work those companies more when I had like another job suffice for me waiting for that money. But if I didn't, which I didn't at first when I moved to New York City, I was like, I need the money now to pay my bills. I'd rather not do that. So those are like different things about brand ambassador work. Highly suggested if you're in between jobs, or you have a job but you just want some way to make extra money and don't want to like have to have a schedule. You can literally pick up a gig like within an hour and say like, oh, I'll take this gig if someone happens to be looking for someone. I do know most agencies like to have their people that are going to work the gigs ahead of time, but if it just so happens that someone dropped out and they're looking for someone, swoop in and take it. Through brand ambassador work, I was able to work the NBA draft. Like, it can take you places, you can meet people, have fun with it. I think it's definitely something to do in your 20s. I know people who are 50 and still do it. I think it's still great up until that age, but for me, I just think that where I want my life to go, brand ambassador work can definitely get me there, but I think I can definitely be doing other streams of income to also get there as well, and content creation is one of them. So let's get into the purpose of this video. Okay guys, so I was asked, how do I find work as a creative? One thing for me that I think still stands to this day is community. Community is everything. I think it's about the people you're surrounded by, but I think it's also about the people you follow on social media. So I will say that that's number one, and like the overall arching thing from all of this. I did write down some notes on I have like 4 to 5 tips on how like I find work. I also will have a blog post, so you guys can check the description box for that link. But I'll go over my 5 tips on how I've been able to find work as a creative. Number 1, network. I'm gonna say that again. Network. I'm gonna say it again. Network, 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 network. When I say network, I don't mean like you have to like go to an event and meet people, but I think when you're out, say if you're out with friends and a friend is like, oh hey, I'm bringing my other friend, talk to them. You never know who you're surrounded by. You don't know who people know. I think as I get older and further into this industry, the saying, it's not about what you know, it's who you know, it literally hits, because I've met some people that I'm just like, wow, like you're not like someone who's like an expert in this industry, but you know people who are in this industry. So it's good to be connected with you, because you can help me get connected with these people, or even just being surrounded by certain people can help your brand. So number 1 is definitely networking. When I first got to New York City, I follow, which is part of one of my tips, is I follow a lot of brands, and just like, especially like creative brands that I knew was hosting events in New York City. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to New York City without a job, I basically need to go to these networking events as if it is my job. This is now my full-time job. I'm going to network like my life depended on it. And the good thing about networking is there's free food. Depending on the type of event you go to, the better the event, the better the food. I was like, you know what? But network like this is my job. I'm going to be able to get a meal out of it, and I'm good. I would literally try and get to networking events as early as possible. Highly suggest this, especially depending on which brand or company it's with, because Some people, like, say, let's say networking event starts at 6. If someone gets off of work at 5, they're at the event like right away, already in line. And if some people are already like full-time creatives and they have more flexibility in their schedule, they're at the event like at 4 waiting in line already. Like, I've got some networking events where the line is like already around the corner and it's like, whoa, like this is gonna be like a crazy big event. So definitely like make sure you can get there on time. I like to get there as early as possible. One, I get first dibs on the food, so nothing's like picked over, touched over. But usually most of the networking events I went to, there's usually like a waiter or like staff walking around with food, so that was fine for me. Get there early, eat, drink, you're good. Now let's get to work. I would honestly just go up to people. Usually for me, I like to do one-off conversations. So if I see someone standing by themselves, I'll go up to them and be like, hey, my name's Rasheba. What's your name? Why are you here? Like just like ask them, what do you like? I think like when I first got here, I was very much like, what do you do? But I think like get away from that title thing is like, how was your day? What are you up to? Like just like super chill conversation. But yeah, so I went to a networking event by Create and Cultivate, which is one of my favorite brands. And that's how actually I got one of my jobs. I got there early. I remember this networking event. It was actually at one of my job's locations. Got there early. The line was like, it was a long line. I don't think it was wrapped around the corner necessarily, but it was definitely a long line. Once I got inside, there was another long line, which is another thing about networking events. You think the outside line is long. Depending on the venue, there could be another line inside. Finally got inside, there was another line, got through, went to the event. That night at that networking event, I won a laptop, which is how I edit my videos now, is on that, like, it's like the Microsoft Surface. So like, not a laptop, but like a tablet. I won one of those. And then after the event, I stayed late. That was one of the tips that I was taught in college, was go early, leave late. So I stayed late, was just chatting, talking with everyone, saying like goodbyes. Got to meet Jacqueline Johnson, and basically one of the women I was speaking to, she was the organizer of the event. We got to chatting. She's like, what do you do? I'm like, oh, well, I just moved to the city. I do brand ambassador work right now, just like random gigs here and there, and I'm a content creator. And she said, well, I sometimes need people to work my events, like add me on LinkedIn. Didn't think anything of it, and I honestly didn't follow up with her right away. I waited 3 months and finally followed up, and I started working with her, and then eventually I started working with the company, which is now my current job. What I will say, which is a really good networking tip I learned, is that if you meet someone that night, message them that night. One thing that I've like altered that tip to do is if I meet someone, if like, let's say I go to like a networking event, for example, I was in PRSSA. Let's say I meet someone and like, let's say it's the last day of the event and the next day people are flying out. I'll schedule the email based off their time zone to get sent that morning. Usually, even if people are headed into work, people still like to check their phones, especially being in New York City. We don't have to drive. We're either on the subway or we're in an Uber. You're checking your phone. And even though some people like to set boundaries, like, oh, I'm not doing any work till I get to work, people like to know what they're like preparing themselves for. So people are checking their phones. So I would schedule an email to go out the morning of, saying like, hey, it was so great to meet you last night. I know you mentioned this, or I know that you said, like, say for example, the woman that was like, oh, I have jobs, I would message her back like, hey, it was so nice to meet you. I remember you mentioned that you sometimes have promotional work, would love to work with you, let me know next steps. If someone, for example, mentioned like, oh, I'm looking for like the best restaurant in New York City, I'm here for a few days, I would send them a link with like my favorite restaurant. Try and like create a conversation where it's like, if there's something you can give, but if that person is offering something up to you, take it. It's not using, it's something I've had to like get myself out of the mindset of thinking like, oh, like it feels like I'm using the person. No. One thing about New Yorkers, and I feel like this is very much a misconstrued like view, is that, oh, New Yorkers are cutthroat. while yes, that is true that some New Yorkers may be cutthroat and may be more focused on their goals, I think overall New Yorkers really just genuinely want to help people. Any way someone can help you, they're like, oh my gosh, like I can help someone and like give back, let me do this. So I think like if someone offers to like help you in some way, like connecting you with their contact or offering you a job, take it, because you never know what it can lead to. So I say all that to say network is definitely key. And I think like the networking for me streamlines to all of my other tips. So tip number 2 is talk to people. Talk to people because you never know who they're connected with. You don't know who they know. You don't know, maybe they have a job. A lot of times when jobs post job listings, it's because one, they probably have who they're looking for and they're just doing the legal way of having the job up for the minimum amount of days. They just need the person who they want to get the job to apply, and then they take it and that's it. I've seen it so many times at my last job where my boss would literally post a job because she's going to promote someone within our office, but because she has to legally post it, she posts it and then she hires someone within. So no one who's applying outside of the job even has a chance. So yeah, so, and plus I think aside from that, people want to hire people they know rather than people they don't know, which is why referrals is key. And if someone is able to refer you, yes, they do get a bonus, but I think aside from that, it's the company is able to hire someone that they already know and someone can vouch for them, so it makes them feel like, okay, this is going to be a great person. This isn't going to be someone that's going to leave in like a few months or something like that. They're more than likely going to stay with the company. So definitely talk to people. You never know who they know. You never know what they know. You never know who they know is looking for something. Just talk. I do think aside from you talking is letting the other person talk, because you never know what they may say that may resonate with you or maybe something that you need to hear. People love talking about themselves, so as much as you're talking to people, let them talk as well, because you never know what they're gonna say. I've literally had people where I feel like they almost are giving me like their social security number. I'm like, you're telling me so much information, like wow, I feel so appreciative that you saw this to me. So let people talk to you, because you never know what information they're gonna tell you. Tip number 3 is follow groups. As I said earlier, network. So before I got to New York City, I was following so many groups, and I'm not gonna lie, I had a little FOMO, because I would see these groups like, oh, we're having this event tonight, oh, we're having this event tonight, and I'm like, yep, I'm still just sitting here in Florida. Yep, not at that event. In New York City, non-COVID world, but in New York City there is so many networking events, so many. Like I said earlier, Create and Cultivate is one of my favorite networking companies. They literally had an event in New York City, I would say like once every 2 to 3 months, and usually when they would come, they would have like 1 or 2 events that week or within a few amount of days. Great company. I've attended their networking events, I've worked some of their networking events. It was great on both sides. And Jacqueline Dawson does a great job at, I think, bringing a good, ignore that guys, I think Jacqueline Dawson does a great job at bringing a good, diverse, not only in like ethnicity, but also in like the company and field that people work for. So I think you're able to, like, if you're someone that's like, I want to be in the food industry, she has a chef, she has someone who owns like their own like cooking business or bakery shop or something, and then she has someone who may be like a food stylist. Like she, I think, brings a good array of experts, so that way you can like really tie down what your niche is and learn a lot about the field that you want to be in. I thoroughly enjoy their events. Another group that I love a lot, especially if you're a person of color, is the Creative Collective, Imani, Ellis. I think that's how you say her last name, is Ellis. Amazing. I'm so happy that I was able to learn about that company or learn about this group and be a part of it. They do this annual event. I don't think they did it this past year because of COVID. It's called CultureCon, and basically it's like any other conference you would go to, but it's all Black people of color creatives. That was, I think, the first time I went to a networking conference, and I was so overwhelmed because, one, there's so many people that look like me. Everyone was dressed like amazing, just sharing their style, what they do, but then also like hearing from people that made it, it was just like, okay, I got this. I feel like inspired, motivated, I'm ready to go. So that was also another good event that I went to. Those are the only two that I can think off the top of my head. The other ones I follow, but I'm not like super like engulfed in them. I think for me, that's where it can be overwhelming, is to have so many networking events. I have like my top like 3 favorite, and that's it. Another one that I know is good, I'm not like super well educated on it, is Mimi Connect. I believe that's for like minorities. That's another great one. I have not gotten like engulfed in it, but that's one that I will suggest, and I'll have links in the blog post where you guys can like go and check out these different brands and join in. One, they do have a lot of free content, but they also have paid, and when you go to enough of their free stuff, you realize the paid stuff is worth it. Definitely think of it as an investment. I don't know if Create and Cultivate does this, but I do know that the Creative Collective, they do sometimes have like student discounts or other type of discounts for people if they are on a budget or you're trying to like save a little coin. If you can, they also sometimes do have payment plans as well. But if you're like hesitant, like should I invest money? Invest the money. It is worth it. It is 1000% worth it. The next tip number 4. So tip number 4 is look up hashtags. When I first got to New York City and I was posting pictures, a lot of my hashtags, or a popular hashtag I would use, is NYC blogger. And someone actually reached out to me through there and was like, hey, I see you're a blogger. I'm a photographer / blogger. Can we connect? And me and her met up for coffee and we connected. And I've actually met a few people that way, where they're like, oh, hey, I see you do this, or I see you do that, or I see you know this person, can we connect? Would love to like talk to you. You never know who is looking or who's following those hashtags and what they may need, or what, you just never know. So definitely look up hashtags. That's been a great way for me to connect and meet people, because now on Instagram you're able to follow the hashtags. If you didn't know that, now you know. So I think like that's a good resource to utilize. I know the person that asked me the question, he said he was a photographer. So if you're someone that's looking for models, or if you're a model who's looking for photographers, highly suggest doing that. I actually found my photographer that way. When I first got to New York City, I looked up New York City bloggers, and I was seeing who the bloggers were tagging as their photographers. Started following my photographer, started following her work. Her price point was, by the time I did get to work with her, she did go on her price a bit, but it was still very much in my budget. Highly suggest doing that. It's a great way to just connect with other creatives and meet people within the industry. Okay, so the last tip is put yourself out there. I created a video on this. It's called How to Be Confident and authentic as a content creator. That video will be linked in the cards up here, whichever side it pops up on. But definitely suggest you watch that video, but I'll give you a quick rundown of it. I think no matter what field you're in, even if it's you, excuse me guys. Okay, so I think no matter what field you're in, even if it's your career, it's you dating, it's you, whatever you're doing, be confident in it, because I think people can smell the confidence. I think for me, there's a difference between confidence and arrogance, or like feeling yourself a little too much. But I feel like if you're confident in your industry, people can feel that and see that, and they already label you as that. When I started this video, I said like I'm not a model, but some of my friends see me as that, or some people see me as that because I've done modeling stuff. But I think the more you put yourself out there and try new things and say yes to more things, you're opening yourself up to new opportunities. And you're also learning about yourself. Me doing these different modeling gigs, it's definitely something that I want to invest more in myself and like trying to like work on my look, work on my posings, so that way if I do end up getting more modeling stuff, I'm more prepared and more like, you know, I'm improving. I think the times when I wasn't as consistent with content creation, people didn't see me as a content creator. They're just like, oh, she's just saying she wants to do it, but she's not doing it. Now that I've gotten more consistent and more confident and more, I think out there with it, brands even recognize it, where they're like, oh, this is a content creator, we want to work with her. And I'm getting more emails like, hey, we'd love to partner with you. And I'm able to reach out to brands also and say, I would love to partner with you. They see my work, we're working on a deal. So I definitely think like whether it's you being a blogger, whether it's you being a photographer, whatever it may be, put yourself out there, because people won't know to work with you if you're not putting yourself out there. I do think that, which I think I said it in the in my how to be a content creator video, how to be a confident and authentic content creator. In case I didn't, don't look at someone else's success and think like, oh, why am I not there yet? You have to remember that that person has probably been working on it 20 times longer than you, or they're just at a different level of it, and you have to accept where you are and just keep working towards bettering yourself. For me, I have a photographer. There's some bloggers out there who don't have a photographer. Did I always want a photographer? No. Unfortunately, I don't want to rely on my friends or make them feel like you have to take pictures of me. I knew that was the one thing standing in my way of being a blogger. You can very much take pictures of yourself on your phone or other devices, like self-timer. I can use my camera to use self-timer. I can use my phone to use self-timer, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted very much someone who would spend an hour or two with me taking pictures in a few outfits, give me the looks, and I'm done, and I can do the phone and self-timer on my camera myself like later. But I definitely wanted like a certain aesthetic, and I knew doing that I had to invest in myself. So if there's something that you're looking for or trying to get and you're just like, okay, why am I not there yet, put yourself out there and start doing the work, and you'll find what you're looking for. I definitely do think the more I've gotten consistent as a content creator, I've been finding those things like, oh, I'm trying to like put my blog this way, I'm trying to like take my photos like this, and I've learned a lot the more like I've been consistent at it. So I hope those tips helped you guys. If you're able to land some deals and really grow your brand, let me know. Like I said in the last New York City video, this is going to be a consistent topic on my channel about New York City and being a content creator. If you guys do have certain topics you want me to talk about, please comment down below and let me know. I would be more than happy to come up with my perspective of it. Even if it's me interviewing and working with someone that I know in the industry who may know more than me, I would be more than happy to work with them and interview them. As always, if you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, like this video, comment, and until next time, from me and Creed, as Creed is like licking my arm, bye. Creed, say bye.